Hi guys, Mick Whelan of the Aslef Union was interviewed by Ben Kentish on LBC. Now Mick was asked about the relationship he had with Grant Shapps. What was interesting is that the union boss said that he had met with the Transport Secretary at the beginning of the pandemic, but has not heard from him since. Britain, unlike many other European countries, seems to have a hands-off approach when it comes to the government getting involved in industrial action. Have a listen to what Mick had to say.
You mentioned Grant Shapps, Mick. Do you speak to Grant Shapps? When did you last communicate with the Transport Secretary?
Very early on in the pandemic, when it was all hands to the pump and we were seeking to do everything for the greater good.
So you haven't spoken to him for 2 years? He doesn't have any contact with the man responsible for our transport system?
Not at all.
Have you tried?
We've called many times publicly for talks to happen, and the time he does so, he says it's nothing to do with the government. I've never spoken to the current rail minister, although I was offered one meeting and I was out of the country at the time, so I have to be fair. But that's one meeting in 18 months.
So why does the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps not want to meet with the trade unions or the businesses? This is a cultural issue, I think. This is something that it's not just on transport, it's not just on the current strikes. It's a general idea that the strikes and the industrial action that's taking place is an issue that's between the owners of the businesses and the workers themselves, and the government does not want to get involved in that. Now, I think it's because in the current climate, the Tory government don't want to be seen putting pressure on businesses because they're trying to maintain these credentials of allowing businesses to do whatever the hell they want. Instead, what they want to do is they want to push through legislation. Now, if they were good Tories, they would be putting through legislation to help workers, but they're not. So they're putting through legislation to help the businesses. So the businesses want to change work practices. They don't want to maintain the current staff levels. They want to lay off a lot of people. They want to change people's ways of working. In some cases, they don't want to pay them any more money. And the government is on their side here by not engaging. They're allowing the businesses to do whatever the hell they want. Now, they aren't public about this. And we've seen this with the P&O ferries fiasco, where members of Parliament stood up in the House of Commons and belittled P&O ferries, criticised them, called them all sorts of names under the sun, but actually did nothing to stop P&O ferries from firing staff and rehiring agency staff. And when it was so amazing to watch. And I was extremely cynical at the time because I knew as a consequence of Brexit, the Tories want to roll back many protections for workers. And we're seeing this at the moment. Liz Truss is talking about pushing through legislation if she becomes Prime Minister. Grant Shapps is preparing this legislation that will make it easier for businesses to lay people off, to roll back protections for workers. The reason Mick Whelan hasn't met with Grant Shapps is because Grant Shapps doesn't care. His objective is not to help workers. His objective is to help businesses. And there's no need to meet with workers if his objective is to help businesses. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.